I think that's really important. And that's why it has been important to share those horrible images of animals dying of plastic, and for us to really see the Amazon burning and these kind of things, and wildfires happening. It's like, oh, wildfires happening in LA and happening where movie stars live. Suddenly it's sort of like it's hitting home. So that's, I think, where we are starting to realize that we will unify and come together on this, but it's unfortunately has to get quite bad, I think, until the masses really kind of start to call out their governments and say, well, what's your plan? Why aren't you acting on this?
Hello, welcome into Chi Time, your chill out zone, here with me, Clara Apollo. Woo-hoo. I always get excited when I have Natalie Fee on the other side waiting to talk to you. I don't mean on the other side like the other side of the veil. I mean on the other side as in the other side. Yeah. Oh yeah, you just saw her there. Oh, okay, she's here. See, look. So
it's still on planet Earth.
On planet Earth, on the other side, but now she's not. She's here. Anyway, what I was going to say was, welcome, Natalie. You're an astonishing author and campaigner and environmental activist. I mean, you're like all these awards you've been winning as well. You've been touching the hearts of people with what you've been bringing through, because you use humour as well as salient facts with what's happening here on the earth at the moment. And all that work that you've done on plastic campaigning, it's just taking off now. It's just phenomenal. And your new book, Give Us a Flash, How to Save the World for Free, is really here. It doesn't mince words, certainly doesn't mince any meat. And, we've got to big it up for City to See, the non-profit organisation that you founded back in 2015. You've got a whole team on board now, and you are rocking the activism into the world. I know you've been collaborating with XR and George Monbiot. In fact, I saw you. You were last on Chi Time backstage at that event, weren't you, in Bristol? So, welcome to Chi Time.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. It's great to be here. Great to be back.
Yay! Back in the Chi Time hot seat. And so the book, I mean, it's already starting to really wake people up even more, because it's like we've been needing to have a go-to place to get all the information in one place, because there is so much coming through now. And with your, if we look back a bit, let's just, before we dive right into that book, let's look at what's happened around the plastics pollution campaign, because you're so hot on that. I mean, you had the TEDx talk, didn't you? And the whole plastic awareness of what you're putting down your toilet. That was it with the TEDx, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The three P's, and then of course plastic being a fourth P. And what has happened since that plastic campaigning has gone worldwide, really, hasn't it? What's gone on from there?
Well, yeah, City to See's gone from strength to strength, really, and I'm just ever astonished and grateful for how things have moved. And I think it's been really exciting to see real change starting to happen. So our refill campaign, which is probably still our biggest campaign, has now grown to over 300 schemes. It's expanding internationally. We've got Refill Chile, Refill Japan, some parts of Australia, as well as it happening here in the UK. So that thing of like trying to combat people's habits around buying single-use bottled water on the go is something we've really addressed head on with our refill campaign. We've had over 250,000 people download the app now. So that's been really good. Yeah, that's been exciting. And then continuing the work around plastics that are flushed down the loo. Our plastic-free periods campaign has gone from strength to strength. We've now got an amazing schools program being rolled out across the UK called Rethink Periods, and I'm so excited about that. So literally, if there are any teachers watching or anyone who's got their kids in school that wants them to have access, it's completely free, and there are ambassadors that will come in and train up the teachers. So that's one thing. If people want to get in touch, we can support that. But just stuff like that, really, kind of behaviour change campaigns, as well as keeping up the pressure on government, you know, campaigning for things like a tax on coffee cups and things like that are still part of the work that we do.
Absolutely. So so that's what you're doing, City to Sea, but also globally, the awareness around plastic. I find that I could have conversations about the plastic problem with anybody. I mean, it's like hugely part of the public's awareness now, and we are like so much more aware of the choices that we have around plastic, where we really didn't used to. I'm guilty of having thrown a lot of glitter about in my past, and I used to say glitter isn't litter. How wrong was I? I mean, it's actually in the word, for goodness sake, but the awareness wasn't there then, but
Yeah,
now it is.
exactly. And just those like very small pieces of plastic that we just didn't think, did we, about, you know, our resources and what our products were actually made of. But now it really has become, for lots of people, you know, more central to our buying choices, and what we expect from our companies to tell us the truth, to tell us what's in the products that we're buying. In the case of wet wipes, where you can still buy a packet of wet wipes and it says 100% water on the ingredients list, when actually you know, the weave, the wipe itself is like 95% plastic. So there's still a lot to be done, and some countries are better than others. I think what we've seen here in the UK is the British public really rising up and really saying we don't want this level of single-use plastics, and so the government have started to take notice. The retailers are moving faster than the government, because they have more power to, and they're more interested in, you know, the money and not losing customers. So they've started making changes faster than the government.
Well, this is true. So if it's run by what people are asking for, you know, people led, then us as consumers, although we're really co-creators, aren't we? But
Yeah.
what we ask for, every choice we make is like a vote for something either way, isn't it? And if you're not choosing congruently with the planet, you're actually still part of the problem. So what I think is tricky here is that, as you mentioned earlier, is asking people to change habits. And the thing about habits is that they're familiar, and so they're kind of reassuring to people. And with the levels of stress that are abound and mental health issues, we're asking people to change habits which can make them feel less calm about themselves, maybe. But then again, behind it, if we can give them information, as you say in your book, we can actually do something, and then that can help us feel happier.
Yeah, I think quite often the changes that we make do feel better than what we were doing before. So that's very much one of the themes of the book, really, is, yes, it's a toolkit to changing the world for free, and there's hundreds of practical tips, but I think the underlying message is that actually when we discover something that is better for the planet, quite often we discover that that's better for us too, and we feel better. And then if we share that from the place of joy and discovery, and then it lands better with people. It lands in a different way to telling people what to do. So I'm a big advocate of a better way that's way more fun.
Way more fun. Well, your first book was like the Everyday Alchemist Happiness Handbook, which is, I think, when I first met you. I love the cover of this, and if anyone's listening, this has got like a beautiful sort of sacred fool and some beautiful markings on there. Is that your face?
It is actually my face. I mean, I had some struggles with that cover, to be fair. And
okay.
The final compromise was like, all right, at least don't put an ugly jester on the front. Can we please just swap that for my face? But yes, I'm still proud of that book as a guide to the inner work and how we can not pollute our inner world. And now this book, Save the World for Free, is about not polluting our outer world.
But it's also connected, isn't it? So connected, because if we take care of our inner being, if we can feel happier about ourselves, and it's like we're having to go like against our culture at the moment in order to be happy, because current culture is skewed. It's actually very sick. It suggests to people that for happiness is not actually happiness. It's like to become more consumers for like profit. And actually the inside happiness is something that you can't buy. You can't buy it, but you can be it. You can give yourself. I mean, the amount of abundance, for instance, the money problem. People like concerned about, oh, if I'm going to save the world, like organic food, for instance, oh, it's really expensive. It's like, not if you look at the bigger picture and you look at the potential abundance around being able to grow your own food, which would then be organic, even though it's not labeled. But the fact you haven't got all those sort of pesticides on it, so it's changing the perspective on the old patterns.
Yeah, and I mean, the argument of things that are, that it's more expensive. I talk about that in the book as well, because obviously it's called How to Save the World for Free, but switching to organic is one of the biggest things that we can do to save the soil, of which we've lost half of the Earth's topsoil in the last 150 years. So, but actually, if you look at it from a holistic point of view, and you start switching off all your appliances in the evening before you go to bed, so that's going to save you around £80 a year. If you start if you switch to a green energy supplier, actually now you can find that you can save money by doing that as well. If you switch to reusable menstrual products, you're going to be saving money. So actually you're going to be making these savings. So you could argue that yes, you can afford to pay a little bit more for organic fruit and vegetables, or even organic clothes. I mean, clothes is a whole other big subject that I talk about in the book, but yeah, I think a holistic approach is needed. And generally, if you do implement most of the things I suggest in the book, you're going to be saving hundreds of pounds a year.
Yay. See, and abundance is all around us as well. It's not just about the money, it's the abundance in the air and in our hearts. And this thing about the environmental catastrophe that we're all facing, this challenge that we're all in together, that feels like there's a real uniting force. I don't know if you've seen The Time of the Sixth Sun, that movie that's out in docuseries that's talking to the elders about the indigenous wisdom of what we really know, what we really understand to be true, and that because of the problems that we're having on the planet now, that this is one of the unifying factors, is that we're all in it together. Nobody can get away from it. Nobody can escape. And so that call for community and collaboration just feels really, really poignantly loud and clear, like a clarion call.
Yeah, and I think quite often people don't act until they feel the pinch. It's quite often that we're comfortable, and I only need to look into a non-environmentalist's Instagram feed and have a look through some of the stuff you're showing, and you might think that there is nothing wrong with the world whatsoever, and it is still all about consuming things and buying the next product to make you look amazing. So we've got all of that going on, and actually it's often not until they feel this, either some sense of personal loss or pain or something to get them out of the oblivion, really, of not actually being connected to what's really happening, or not connected to nature. So I think that's really important, and that's why it has been important to share those horrible images of animals dying of plastic, and for us to really see the Amazon burning and these kind of things, and wildfires happening. It's like, wildfires happening in LA and happening where movie stars live. Suddenly it's sort of like it's hitting home. So that's, I think, where we are starting to realize that we will unify and come together on this, but it's unfortunately has to get quite bad, I think, until the masses really kind of start to call out their governments and say, well, what's your plan? Why aren't you acting on this?
Yeah, we can't actually afford to let it get that bad, though, can we?
Well, I mean, some might say it is that bad already, and I think that's why we're seeing, XR having exploded across the streets, around the world. The school strike for climate youth strike, Greta Thunberg, you know, I think this is all the kind of like the response to the feeling that our governments are failing us. And obviously my book is very much about individual action, but it also addresses some of the big systemic stuff that we can get more engaged with, and like our political systems and our financial systems, and those, you know, the way our cities are run and that sort of thing. So yes, there definitely has to be, you know, we can do all these things to change the world, but the government also have to, here in the UK, for example, stop subsidising fossil fuels.
Yeah, for goodness sake, why is that even still going on? Because what it is, it's like either mass revolution or mass extinction, really, isn't it? Oh, and cheers, we're doing cheers on Chi Time. Natalie Fee is here.
Yes.
And author and environmental campaigner. What have you got in your tea mug today?
So here's a little tip for you. So we talked about organic, so at least Pukka tea is organic. But you know what the biggest source of their carbon footprint is across the whole of their supply chain? Right. Imagine, you know, a multinational company. Mm-hmm. Do you know what the biggest source of carbon emissions across the whole of their supply chain from creation to cup?
Their label.
No, it's people overfilling their kettles.
Oh, that's such a good point.
I know.
Because, you know, you've got little markings on your kettle, haven't you? And mm-hmm. why would you want to use more energy than you need? It's like when you put the water on to clean your teeth, you don't have to need it on. You just need to clean your teeth and have a little sip of it. In fact, you can have a little cup rather than have the, you know.
Apparently, again, it's like we're spending about £70 a year overfilling our kettles or something ridiculous like that. So, you know, in terms of the cost, it's not effective. And in terms of the carbon emissions, you know, boiling the kettle is energy intensive. So only put in what you need. So I just have a cup by the kettle now, and when I want a cup of tea, I fill it up from the tap and I pour that in the kettle.
That's a really good idea. You know, hot tips, very simple but very effective. I love it. So let's go. Sorry, what were you going to say?
I said it's in the book.
It's all in the book. I haven't read it all yet. I haven't done my complete swatting, but I am enjoying it. It's really good because it's just so, it's backed up with so much science and fact. It's like, you know, there's ideas and solutions in there, but it's like, oh, and you can look up the science on this and the research that's the latest. It's like,
I mean, like, hands up, obviously, I didn't do all that science. I'm not a scientist myself. I am more like the mouthpiece, but there are these incredible scientists and journalists out there who share this information. So yes, I'm very grateful to them because that's obviously what's the foundation of the book.
Yeah, quite. But that's good when people read it because then they can look at where that's coming from and they can research it further if they want.
Exactly.
Anyway, Dr. Fee, you had to get that one in there somewhere. Let's go to a track. Let's go to a track by a very special lady. We're talking about collaboration and being the change that we need to see on the world. And could you introduce it for us and let us know a bit about that collaboration that went on with you and Tallulah Rendall?
I'd love to. So yeah, Tallulah is a very good friend of mine, and her album, The Liminal, is definitely, like, hands down my favorite album of 2019. It was just, there is not a single bum song on that whole CD, and it really brings through a really special vibe to, I think, support us. Actually, it feels like it's a really healing album, but it's really fun and funky and electric and gorgeous and lyrical, and like, there's nothing boring about it. So Tallulah also wanted her art to be doing good in the world, you know, as well as sort of feeling like she's creating as an artist. I think, you know, she's not alone, and that a lot of artists are wanting to dedicate that towards seeing some changes happen in terms of our environmental emergency that we're facing. So we teamed up with City to Sea with Tallulah, and we did a video about plastic pollution and being the change. So we're going to play Be the Change.
And we will be back with Natalie Fee after this delightful, I mean, light is so part of this. I know the golden light that Tallulah literally sings through her. So just enjoy this, and we'll be back with Natalie Fee afterwards.
Stakes are high, they've been before. Our world's on its knees, bleeding out from every pore. The call to save the land, the trees, the rivers, the oceans, and as many species. By holding on to love, uniting one another, holding on to love, uniting sisters and brothers, holding on to love, let's be the chain, let's be the change. By holding on to love, uniting one another, holding on to love, uniting sisters and brothers, holding on to love, let's be the chain, let's be the change.
Oh, just beautiful. I love Tallulah Rendall. I think she's just a stunning performer and a woman. You know, she's such a beautiful, beautiful soul.
Yeah.
So
I think I actually would like, in an ideal world, I would do a book tour with Tallulah.
yes, wouldn't
So
that be
it'd be like-
great?
yeah, and like I'd do her backing vocals. I'd dance around, and then we could do the change the world stuff.
Well, that's the thing, and because she's a sound healer and a qigong player, and you know, she's just like an all-round fantastic woman, and it's great that she's part of the show again, and she's part of what you're doing, and yeah, we are Tallulah fans.
We are. You might have guessed.
Yeah, you might have guessed.
Yeah,
but that's also like, you know, we're women supporting women, the whole Rise Sister Rise crew of like, you know, we're all in this together, and we're really supporting one another as women growing into the world and doing what it is we can do. So I know you're supported a lot by your women friends too, and guys, and like the men are in there too.
I am. I'm full gender neutral these days.
Yeah, for sure, exactly. It's person, isn't it? Heart-centered. Rise, people rise.
Yeah, exactly.
It's happening. It's happening.
Everyone now, I think, is the hashtag.
Everyone now.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm supposed to all together now. That's a bit old school. But I noticed in your new book, How to Save the World for Free by Natalie Fee, which is out in the shops now. You can get it on Amazon or is it by your website, nataliefee.com or citytosea.org?
Yeah, I mean, nataliefee.com/books gives you a couple of options for buying the book there. Amazon is not very ethical, but it is, you know, convenient and helpful. But if you'd rather buy it from an independent bookstore, then you can do that, or you can get it from Amazon. I mean, not Amazon, I mean Waterstone.
It's just like, yeah, ubiquitous of the world now, Amazon. It's like the word Google. I really try not to say I'm going to Google that, because I'm not having that in my vocab. It's like, I'm going to research that. I'm going to look that up. It's like,
I'm going to ecosia it and plant some trees.
Ecosia, exactly. Plant some trees while I have a research.
Yeah.
See? Change that habit.
Like, I planted about 1,500 through the course of researching my book. So I think it's something like every 50 searches, they plant a tree. So anyway, I clocked up some serious
forest going on there.
Yeah. Well, ecosia foraging was happening.
Okay, good. There's a lot of reforesting initiatives going on, aren't there, at the moment? It seems to be one of the big things that people are getting into is the reforestation of the planet, which is timely because it's going to take a while for those trees to grow, and flipping Henry, we're going to need them in 20 years' time.
Yes, I mean, sadly, we're still ripping them down at a rate faster than we're putting them back in, but hey ho, we are working on that. We're going to talk about like what we can do about that.
We are, because going through the book, right, what I'm loving is that it's peppered with a few song titles like All I Need Is the Air That I Breathe.
It is, isn't it? I'm glad you spotted that.
Of course I would.
Did you read the intro to the sex chapter?
No, I haven't got to that bit yet. Which one's
that? Can I read it?
Yeah, go on then.
I haven't done a book reading because I kind of think book readings are a little bit weird, but
no, go on, go for it.
In the chapter, because you've mentioned song references.
Yes.
So the intro to the chapter, How to Save the World When You Have Sex. Yes, really. Considering that sex is one of our favourite pastimes, eco-sex doesn't get a lot of action. So this chapter is dedicated to making our lovemaking even more pleasurable, safe in the knowledge that we're not screwing the planet. from avoiding unwanted pregnancies to knowing what to do with your vibrator when you're done with it, engaging in earth positive sex can be a deeply satisfying experience for lovers and loners alike. I'm sure Marvin Gaye would have agreed that with the world getting hot just like an oven, it needs some lovin'. And when it gets that feeling, we need eco-sexual healing. Oh, baby, I couldn't take it much longer. So yes, there you go. It is playful. I'm a bit silly in the book. I'm a bit silly by nature, and so that definitely comes across in the book.
Yeah, but you're putting the fun into the profundity of this message, and it's essential because it tickles people into going, okay, this is serious, but why can't we still have fun with it? Because humans are incredibly innovative and ingenious, and they like to have fun and play. So while we're saving the planet, why don't we have some fun? So let's go to, thank you for bringing up the sex chapter. I was going to ask you about that, but you got in first. Brilliant. So how can we save the world for free in the most effective ways? What's the best way that's going to really make the most change? What can we do?
Yeah. So obviously, properly recycling your dildo isn't actually going to save the world. It's one of the things that we could do. But it's like a $62 million industry, or billion or something crazy. Anyway, so there's a lot of that definitely needs looking at. In terms of like the most impactful thing we can do as individuals, I will just go for the top three. Eating less meat. I advocate switching to a predominantly plant-based diet in terms of what the planet can sustain. I don't suggest that everybody goes vegan because I don't agree that it's good for everybody and everybody's body types and blood types, but certainly eating a predominantly plant-based diet is one of the biggest things that we can do in terms of climate breakdown, deforestation, soil erosion, looking after our oceans. It ticks so many boxes. So that would be numero uno. Number two I would say is to fly less. Like if you have to fly, then really look at how frequently you're flying, and really cut that down if you can. Travel by train when you can. If for some reasons you'd need to fly, then I would certainly advocate offsetting, and in the book I recommend some very high quality offsetting schemes. My campaigner friend Sophie Hellier describes offsetting as doing a big dump and then covering it with flowers to cover up the smell. So it's not ideal, but it's certainly better. I mean, if everyone who was flying was offsetting, that would be some serious reforestation going on, or some really innovative programs happening. So number three would be to make sure your energy is green. Like, it's so simple, but so many people have still not made the switch. Our energy is a massive part, so the energy that we use through heating our homes and living at home is a huge part of our carbon footprint. And so if we all shift to a green energy tariff, that is a hugely impactful thing that we can do, possibly on a par with eating less meat.
That was good, in a lovely nutshell there. So, but it's clear it's repetition. Who's not heard about the eating less meat thing? But we're not just making this up. There's statistics and science behind it. And there's, as you so rightly say, not everyone can go completely plant-based. But if we became more plant-based, that would help so much. And also this sort of the eating local and organic, because the organic creatures will also give back to the soil in the way that that's meant to happen. So there's there's giving back to the soil if it's not over farmed or over pesticided and all of that. And we haven't even started on the insects yet, but I mean it's just it's everywhere.
Started on the insects.
Really?
Yeah, I know. Like any corner you look at, any stone you turn, you will find a problem lurking under it at the moment. But I do feel like we're getting to that point where we're realizing that, and things are starting to change.
Yeah. So in your book, How to Save the World for Free by Natalie Fee, you clearly break things down into 7 things that we need to save, which are oceans and seas, forests,
Yep.
atmosphere, the air, the rivers, the ice, the water, the soil, the plants and the animals, and us. So
Yeah.
that's very clear. That's pretty much everything.
Some
Really,
people are going to be saying that was more than 7, but rivers and ice are in the same chapter.
Yeah.
Plants and animals are like in the biodiversity chapter. So yes, I do. And I would say like only the first sort of like maybe that much of the book, like the first, you can't really see that, the first 5th of the book basically is about, you know, what's going wrong in the world.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is how to fix it.
But as you rightly say, you know, people need to be woken up to this. The ostriches need to get their heads out of the sand. We need to look at it and take a deep breath. You often say this as well, take a breath and take heart. You know, you need to take this on, but don't panic, because what was it, that quote? We are up shit creek, but there's plenty of paddles for everyone.
Yeah, I do say that. Yeah.
That made me laugh. Yeah.
Good.
And then you come up with these solutions. So you've got about 12 areas here. We've got the eating, the drinking, the travel, the living, the banking, dressing, what's that, did I write? The using the bathroom, that's one. Bleeding, plastic-free periods, exercise, having sex, which you've already mentioned, playing, sexing, yeah. What's that? I can't even remember what I said. What's that? Voting with your choices. So let's get on to that. Yeah. Go, Natalie.
Well, actually, that section is actually about our political system. So it's not about the voting with your wallet. That section is very much about our political system, our currently broken form of democracy, other models of democracy that are happening around the world, more progressive ones. I talk about our lack of proportional representation in the country. So you know, we've got the first past the post system. So I talk about the downside of that in terms of the Green Party not really being able to get the amount of MPs there, that actually in terms of the number of people that have voted for them, they should have a lot more people representing us in Parliament. Obviously, I say us, I am a member of the Green Party, and I believe that it is important for us to vote for candidates who genuinely have our best interests at heart when it comes to the planet before profit.
Because really, if we haven't got a planet, what is the point of voting for anything else? I mean, that's what I've always voted Green as well, because though all of those issues have to be there, they have to be present. Otherwise, what is the point? It just doesn't make sense to me.
I also talk about, give examples of standing for election and sort of, you know, the kind of impact that we can make at a city level, and how important that is. So I've definitely, you know, hopefully can put across some ways in which people can become more engaged citizens and
Yes.
think about running for election.
Or going on the marches. So have you been on an XR march? Have you been involved with any of their rebellions?
I have. I've been up to London for the last 2 and done stuff here in Bristol as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, you know, obviously being visible and making demands on our government and being vocal about that is a part of the solution. You know, we can't just kind of quietly do our thing. We have to demand those changes and show that there are thousands of people, hopefully at some point hundreds of thousands of people, prepared to make sacrifices to, you know, in order to bring about the changes that we want.
Well, that's how it's always happened in history. Look at the suffragette movement, the human rights movement. It was all people-led. And this is what we're being called to do now. People really powering up together, you know, with peace in our hearts. We don't really want to cause problems, but there's such a big problem that we need to overcome, that we need to unite about this. Get on the streets.
Yeah, absolutely. And the non-violent part of it is a big part of what I love about XR.
Yeah. Oh, Natalie Fee, thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom and your heart with us here on Chi Time.
My pleasure. I love being on Tea Time with you. Natalie Fee time on Tea Time.
Yes, too much fun, profound fun. Should we leave listeners and viewers with a heartening message off the top of your head and from the bottom of your heart?
Well, no pressure. I would just say, I think I'd probably just repeat what I said before around when you discover something that feels better than what you were doing before, like the new way, the more environmentally friendly way, when that feels better than what you were doing before, share it. So yeah,
Share
that
it, because
makes ripples, and ripples make waves.
And the waves of change are upon us.
I was just going to let you finish that one off.
I did.
It needed a third, didn't it? It was just like it was waiting for something else to come in.
Yeah. The waves of change. And this all, when we work together and we make ourselves feel better about doing things that are going to help the planet, then our stress levels can reduce and we can become more cheerful and more healthful and happier.
Yeah,
and united.
I mean, the main message I want to leave people with is like, buy the book and enjoy it, and tell me what you think about it, and come and see me. Let's get together. I'm doing shows and events, and we're doing one.
Yeah, Natalie's coming down to the New Forest on the 26th of November, a gorgeous retreat, New Forest. We've got a whole evening with you. I cannot wait. We've got a great bunch of people down there that really, really support you. There's a lot of environmental aware people on the South Coast, and come along.
We're going to be having a lot of fun too. I'm going to share some music and some poems.
Okay.
This is not just going to be a straight up talk.
Well, I can't imagine it would be with you. Might even be a bit of dancing.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't scheduled any dancing, but I'm well up for doing some improv. I mean, I could do some interpretive dance. All I need is an invitation, and I'm there.
All right, I'm with you. Brilliant. Anyway, I'll let you go now, and thank you so much for your time again and for everything that you're bringing through and everything that you're doing. All the love.
Thank you. Thanks for supporting the books.
Yay. Bye for now.
Cause I'm human in my weakness. Oh, I'm human with my strengths as well. But I'll break the shackles of my fears, break the burden of my doubts. Cause I'm human in my kindness. Oh, I'm human when my tears fall. But there's a truth that stands within me. Oh, there's a heart that stands as tall. But I was brave in this hour. Oh, I was brave in the dark. Oh, I was brave in this hour. Brave from the start. Oh, brave in this hour. Oh, I was brave in the dark. Oh, I was brave in this hour. Choosing now to believe in you and myself. Cause I'm human in my kindness. Oh, I'm human when my tears fall. And there's a truth that stands within me. Oh, there's a heart that stands as tall. Oh, I was brave in the dark. Oh, I was brave in this hour. Brave from the start. Oh, brave in this hour. Oh, I was brave in the dark. Oh, I was brave in this hour. Oh, I was brave in this hour. Oh, I was brave in the dark. Oh, I was brave in this hour. Brave from the start. Oh, brave in this hour. Oh, I was brave in the dark. Oh, I was brave in this hour. So when your light is weary, oh, when your light is weary, oh, when your light is weary, hold on. Oh, when your light